The Devil Made Me Do It may sound familiar. That's because the third Conjuring movie has the same title, and this real-life event inspired the film. The trial of Arne Johnson, also known as the Devil Made Me Do It case, is the first known court case in the United States in which the defense sought to prove his innocence of being demonically possessed and the denial of personal responsibility for the crime that he actually committed. With all that being said, let's dive right into this story. This story begins in the 1980s with the possession of an 11-year-old boy named David Glatzel. Now, after he and his family purchased a rental property, David started seeing a ghostly figure that could only be described as an old man with black eyes, a thin face with animal features, and jagged teeth. His parents would get angry with him because they thought he was making up this story in order to avoid doing housework that they were telling him to do. But David would often reply with very evil threats about what would happen if they ever tried to leave the house, even though they had simply purchased it to do it up and rent it out. David's parents decided that this would be a good time as any to move into the home. This is where things really started to take a downward spiral for the family. David kept telling his parents that the old man was appearing more and more, and his figure was starting to change into this demonic wolf, and this wolf-type creature would curse him in Latin. It also told him that it would eat his soul. What? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. David himself started to change too, and after experiencing multiple seizures and strange injuries, such as bruises and scratches all over his body, which David claimed that he was being beaten by this demonic force or this demonic entity. The family reached out to the Catholic Church, but they were unsuccessful with getting David the help that he needed. Jesus Christ would have delivered him. The family was asking, who are you gonna call? That didn't happen. Moving on. Then after some searching around, they got in contact with Ed and Lorraine Warren. They would observe David and see what could be done and the steps to overcome this demonic entity that was overtaking David. Now, if you didn't know, Ed and Lorraine Warren were a married couple that was famously known for their paranormal and demonic investigation cases they did around the nation. They might have done it around the world. I can't remember. Okay, moving on. According to the Warrens, they saw David levitate during one of their exorcisms that they performed on the boy. They would go on to state that David also had multiple demons. They were able to identify at least 43 demons that were attached to the boy. After the Warrens contacted the Catholic Church, letting them know that the case of the Glatzel family that they called about was the real deal. And after talking to the Warrens, the church took the case more seriously and they sent out a priest to carry out an exorcism. In total, there were at least 3 exorcisms performed on the young boy. During one of the exorcisms, David's sister Debbie had her boyfriend Arne attend in order to comfort Debbie. It was said that Arne, in a last-ditch effort to help David because he was so concerned about the boy, he offered himself up to these demons as a way to save the young boy. He said, "Let the boy go and take me instead." Yeah, that was a bad idea. That's a bad idea. According to eyewitnesses, he was attacked during this, and when driving home, this demon that left David and they came and attached themselves to Arne, tried to make him have a car wreck, and he ran into a tree. When Arne returned back to the house by himself that night, it was at this point that these things actually took over him. Debbie stated that after that night, Arne was never the same. He was always seen staring off into space and like these trances. One day, while he was in one of these trances, staring out the window, he told Debbie that he could see an old man. It was the same old man that the young boy David saw when he was possessed by these demons. After Arne started showing strange behaviors that were really similar to David's, Debbie feared that the demons had overtaken him, and it was obvious that things were not right. As all this was going on, Debbie was hired by a dog groomer named Alan Bono, who was also their landlord. Now, to understand, Debbie worked at the Brookfield Kennels, which was a dog grooming place, and their apartment was located directly above the store. This is where things seem to take a very dark turn. On February 16th, 1981, Arne called in sick to his job at Wright Tree Services where he worked and joined Debbie at the kennel where she worked, along with his sister Wanda and Debbie's 9-year-old cousin Mary. Alan, who was the couple's landlord and Debbie's boss at the Brookfield Kennel, bought the group lunch at a local bar. Alan had a little too much to drink there. After lunch, the group left the local bar and returned back to the store. At this point, it was pretty obvious that Alan just had way too much to drink at the bar, and so Debbie, seeing this, decided, okay, it's time to get the girls out of here and for us just to leave. It was said as they were about to leave, Alan grabbed Debbie's cousin Mary and wouldn't let her go. Arne, seeing this, tried to pull him away, and it was at this point that he started snarling at Alan like an animal. Then it escalated to where Arne pulled out a pocket knife and attacked him with it, stabbing Alan several times, which this ended up leading to his death. This led to the first murder in the history of Brookfield, Connecticut. See, what's strange is that Lorraine Warren called the police in Brookfield several days before the murder even took place and told them to keep their eyes on the family. She would go on to tell them that she had a very bad feeling that something very bad and horrible was about to happen. Arne, without a doubt, did commit the crime, but he had no memory of ever committing the crime. In fact, he was shocked when he found out what even happened and what it was said that he even did. This is where things take a turn that would forever change history. According to Lorraine Warren, she contacted the Brookfield police weeks before Bono's murder, telling them that she had a bad feeling and to keep an eye out on the Glatzel family. Following the crime, she would call again and tell them that she had knowledge that Arne Johnson was under demonic possession. Arne claims to have absolutely no memory of the events that took place with this murder, and Ed and Lorraine Warren fanned the media's interest with this case, and Arne's lawyers sided with them, proclaiming that they were going to make a case of their defense by claiming that Arne was possessed by these demonic forces. The Glatzel family were in the spotlight as this case went public as the demon murder trial took the small town of Brookfield by storm. The Warrens claimed that they could offer indisputable proof that Arne Johnson was under the influence of these diabolical forces or demonic forces, as it would say, when he attacked Alan Bono. However, despite the Warrens' claims, Judge Robert Callahan promptly rejected the defense of this possession, stating there was absolutely no evidence for such an outlandish claim. On November 24th, 1981, after a hastily arranged plea of self-defense, a jury found Arne Johnson guilty of first-degree manslaughter. Judge Robert Callahan imposed a sentence of 10 to 20 years. However, 19-year-old Arne Johnson was freed after only 5 years. In the years since this sensational media spectacle, the demon murder case has simply refused to go away. This murder case became the first time in history that a defense used demonic possession as a defense. This is why it's so important to be rooted in Christ and be surrounded by other followers in Christ so that we can use the tools and gifts that we have and prayers we need in times like this. Have you ever experienced anything like this? I would love to hear your story. Okay guys, that does it for today's video. Hit that thumbs up. Until next time, God bless.